Picture this. It's 1942. The world is burning. Steel is rationed. Aluminum is precious as gold. And somewhere in a laboratory, scientists are performing what seems like alchemy, turning ordinary wood into armor that can stop bullets. This isn't folklore. This is forgotten history. And the story of how humanity transformed trees into shields reveals something profound about innovation, desperation, and the genius that emerges when survival demands impossible solutions. You walk past wood every day, your furniture, your floors, the trees lining your street. It's ordinary, commonplace, unremarkable. But for a brief moment in history, wood became something else entirely, a super material that would help win the most devastating war humanity had ever known. Before the war, wood was simple. It built houses and heated homes. It was organic, biodegradable, weak compared to steel. Engineers didn't see potential. They saw limitations. But war has a way of forcing us to see with new eyes. When Germany invaded Poland in 1939, the industrial world faced an immediate crisis. Modern warfare consumed metals at an unprecedented rate. Aircraft needed aluminum. Tanks devoured steel. Ships required both in quantities that quickly outpaced production. Every nation involved in the conflict faced the same mathematical nightmare. How do you build an arsenal when you're running out of materials? The answer seemed impossible. You don't replace metal, except you do when you have no choice. Scientists in Britain, America, and Germany began looking at wood not as it was, but as it could be. They understood something fundamental. Wood's weakness wasn't in its molecular structure, but in its natural form, the air gaps, the irregular fibers, the spaces between cells that made it light but fragile. What if you could eliminate those weaknesses? What if you could compress wood so densely that it became something nature never intended? This wasn't just innovation, this was transformation at the molecular level. The breakthrough came through a process called resin impregnation and compression. Take thin sheets of wood veneer. Birch worked best, though beech and maple showed promise. Soak them in phenolic resin, a synthetic polymer that would fill every pore, every gap, every microscopic space within the wood's cellular structure. Then stack these sheets, dozens of them, and compress them under immense pressure, while heating them to over 300 degrees Fahrenheit. What emerged was barely recognizable as wood. Compressed wood, sometimes called densified wood, or by trade names like jickwood in Britain and lignofol in Germany, achieved densities 3 times that of natural wood. It was harder than many metals. It could be machined with precision. It didn't splinter when struck. It absorbed impact energy through its layered structure, dissipating force that would shatter brittle materials. Tests revealed something stunning. At certain thicknesses, laminated compressed wood could stop small arms fire. Not just slow it, stop it completely. A material that grew in forests could now protect soldiers. The British de Havilland Mosquito became the most famous testament to wood's wartime evolution. Built almost entirely from laminated wood, this aircraft became one of the war's most versatile and successful planes. It was fast, faster than many fighters. It was strong, capable of carrying bombs across Europe, and it was invisible to the resource accountants tracking metal consumption. The Mosquito didn't exist in the steel budget because it didn't need steel, but the Mosquito was just the beginning. Compressed wood found its way into aircraft components, naval vessels, even tank armor supplements. The Germans used it extensively in their V-1 flying bombs. The Americans incorporated it into PT boats and aircraft flooring. Everywhere engineers looked, they found applications for this miracle material that came from trees. Here's where the story takes a turn most people never learned. The innovations in densified wood didn't stop at structural applications. The same scientists who figured out how to compress wood realized something else. If you could process wood into extremely fine particles and suspend those particles in resin-based coatings, you could create protective paints with remarkable properties. Wood flour, sawdust, ground to powder so fine it felt like talc, became the secret ingredient in advanced protective coatings. Mixed with phenolic and later epoxy resins along with other fillers and hardeners, these wood-reinforced paints created surfaces that were impact-resistant, flame-retardant, and surprisingly effective at dissipating the energy of projectiles. The principle was elegant. When a bullet strikes traditional metal armor, it either penetrates or ricochets, a binary outcome. But wood-reinforced composite materials, including these specialized paints, behave differently. The layered structure of wood particles, even in powdered form, created a matrix that could absorb and distribute impact energy across a wider area. Multiple thin coats created a laminated effect at the microscopic level. These paints protected everything from ammunition storage facilities to the interiors of bombers, where fire was as dangerous as flak. They coated fuel tanks, reducing catastrophic failures. They covered vulnerable components on vehicles, adding protection without adding the weight of metal armor. And they did it all using a material that was renewable, abundant, and didn't compete with critical war materials. The formulations were classified, the applications were widespread, and when the war ended, the knowledge was quietly filed away, replaced by new materials, new technologies, new priorities. So, why don't we know this story? Why has wood's crucial role in wartime innovation been relegated to footnotes, if it's mentioned at all? The answer is both simple and complicated. After 1945, the world didn't need wood armor anymore. The pressure that created innovation vanished. Steel was abundant again. Aluminum flowed freely. New materials emerged. Fiberglass, carbon fiber, advanced ceramics, Kevlar. Each generation of materials made the previous one seem obsolete, primitive, unnecessary to remember. There's also a narrative problem. We want our war technology to sound impressive. We want cutting-edge, high-tech, futuristic. Wood doesn't fit that story. It's too ordinary, too common, too reminiscent of a past we've moved beyond. So, we celebrate the Manhattan Project and radar and the Enigma machine, achievements that sound like progress. We forget the humble materials that actually kept soldiers alive. But forgetting this history costs us something. It costs us the understanding that innovation isn't always about inventing something new. Sometimes it's about seeing something old in a completely new way. It costs us the knowledge that the most revolutionary solutions often come from the most unexpected places. And it costs us the stories of the scientists and engineers who looked at a tree and saw a shield. The principles developed in those wartime laboratories didn't die, they evolved. Today's composite materials, the carbon fiber in racing cars, the aramid fibers in body armor, the engineered wood products in modern construction, all descend from the same fundamental insight. You can engineer materials at the microstructural level to create properties that don't exist in nature. The compressed wood of World War II was humanity's first major success in this endeavor. Modern material scientists still study densified wood. Recent research has produced superwood that's stronger than steel and as strong as titanium alloy, created through processes that would be, honestly, familiar to those wartime engineers: compression, resin impregnation, controlled heating. We've come full circle, rediscovering what desperation taught us 80 years ago. There's a larger lesson here about innovation under constraint. The engineers who transformed wood into armor didn't have the luxury of unlimited resources or unlimited time. They had forests, chemistry, and necessity, and they created something remarkable. In our current age of material abundance, we sometimes forget that constraint breeds creativity. We forget that the most profound innovations often come not from having everything, but from making do with what we have. World War II. Wood is a reminder that genius isn't about access to exotic materials. It's about seeing potential where others see limitations. The trees are still there, the knowledge remains, and the lesson endures. Sometimes the most extraordinary solutions hide in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone desperate enough or clever enough to see them. This forgotten chapter of wartime innovation reminds us that history's greatest breakthroughs often come from the most unexpected sources. If this story of humanity's ingenuity in the face of impossible odds has opened your eyes to the hidden narratives that shaped our world, subscribe to Through Time. Share this story, because the past is filled with lessons we desperately need today. Together, we can uncover the forgotten innovations that prove human creativity knows no bounds when survival demands it.